There we go.
Good. Good. Smile. Turn in a little bit. Thanks.
There you go. Welcome, everybody. I'm Elizabeth Robinson, and along with Professor John Isham, Heather Newworth, and Jaya Ghosh, we welcome you to our Middlebury Center for Social Entrepreneurship Student Summer Grant presentations for 2012. I want to recognize 3 MCSC Advisory Board members who are with us today. We have Becky Castle, class of 91, Hal Colston, and Charlie McCormick, class of 63. We also want to thank President Leibowitz for being here. Thank you, Ron, very much. Last spring, the MCSC awarded 5 social entrepreneurship grants to what we believed were an incredibly creative, driven, and passionate group of 13 students. We were right. Creative. Sam and Eleni, we admire your creativity in getting the composting project finished and embraced in Virgins, especially with so many constituencies to work with. Hannah and Anna, we've been struck by your ability to synthesize your academic work with Globe Med's needs to create a project that has had such impact in Rwanda. And even more impressive is your dedication to keep it going this fall. Driven and determined. Max, I believe it was 2 a.m. when I saw your headlights in my driveway in the middle of a thunderstorm racing to save crickets in the greenhouse. We are happy you have finally, after 3 iterations, found the perfect name for your wonderful venture. Passionate. Brooke and Eve, you have been relentless in your devotion and passion for the children benefiting from your work in Ethiopia and Kenya. We know that the obstacles have been great. And Integrando, your stories are laden with emotion and humility. We know that the youth you work with will never forget your empowering support. So to you 13, thank you for being our pilot projects. You will serve as models for future summer grant recipients, and we thank you for raising the bar so high. We also need to thank our generous donors for allowing us to support these student grantees in this way. We are very grateful. So here we go.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you all for being here. My name is Eve Rotich. This is Brooke Ngesha. We want to introduce Amman Children's Home and Development Program. Amman Children's Home and Development Program is a project that started in 2011, September. I will give you guys a minute to read our mission. Well, less than a minute, really. Alright. We started Amman Children's Home and Development Program as a problem-solving approach to get all the kids in Ethiopia and Kenya, or try to, at least so we got a few, to eliminate the bank-led effect where a lot of children are brought into a center and they all live in bank-led. They don't develop a sense of individuality. So the goal of this program was to get all these kids, give them education, give them a sense of, give them a future and a hope, just everything, a sense of family, togetherness, bringing them in a center as a family. We started with, the goal was to get 7 to 8 children. We started with 7 children in Ethiopia by getting the local government in Ethiopia to work with us and give us exactly the kids that needed the help the most. And it started out great. we had to start, the biggest challenges at the beginning were the financial challenges. Of course, when we worked with the S office and we had to save some money during the summer to keep it going and get it started. That's the platform for the summer program that we did last year. So we can talk about the children's home.
Oh yeah, so as Evelyn mentioned, our plan was to improve the life of street children, generally vulnerable children in Ethiopia and Kenya. This seems like a bigger picture, so to give you a little more specific examples, this is Bez. Bez lives in Dase in Ethiopia, and this is pretty much her house. She was born and raised in this place. It's on the side of the road. And to make things worse, her mom is, she actually is mentally not stable. And also she has 2 additional children who are like 1 and 2, I guess, babysitting her. So she runs around on the street like finding food and trying to talk to people, and that's pretty much her life. So after we went to the official, Grace was one of the kids saying, I want to start in our project. And this is the picture we took in Ethiopia in January, and this is the one you see she's from. And yeah, so to give you another example in Kenya, we have 7 kids in Ethiopia, and one of the kids is in Kenya. And this is Chelu. And this is actually like 100 meters away from the main house, the family house they have. She lived with her uncles, but both her parents were died because of HIV/AIDS, and they told she has HIV. She's HIV positive too, so they kind of neglected her. And she, as a child, she wasn't even able to play with other kids. So we also heard about these kids through the local government in Eldoret, so we went to see her. And the first day we met her, we just didn't want to leave her there, so that was the day she joined Aman Children's Home since 6 months. It's actually taken 2 months ago. She joined the school, and she is part of the project. So these were the things we did through Aman Children's Home, and it started in August 2011, so it has been a year, and we have been running it through like our main means of resources. We work on campus, and that covers 50% of the cost we have every month, and the rest of it will come through like we did with START and other funding sources. So this summer when we won the grant for social entrepreneurship, $3,000, we were thinking of what we are going to do with it. And one option was implementing more money to the project we already have in Ethiopia and Kenya. But as you can imagine, we found out after we get into the work that the children's problem in this country is actually more complicated than we actually thought before we get into the work. So we knew that there need to be more approaches to this problem than just having a home and getting street kids to the home. So we designed this project, and everyone talked about this.
The biggest challenge is getting all the kids to go to school, and we could get the 8 kids that we had to go to school, but it did not seem to solve the problem quite. And the goal, our next objective was to get more kids, cater for a bigger group of children with the little money that we have or the little resources that we could afford. So we designed a center in which 20 to 40 kids would come in during the day. This is because we did go to Kenya and look around, and there's a lot of children that just live on the streets during the day. They do have places to sleep, but they don't have the motivation to go to school, so they don't have the educational background. They don't have lunch. They don't have clothing to go to school, and uniform is mandatory. They don't have shoes, and the nutritional, all the food that they eat is food from the streets, not enough nutrition in that. So we did work with Sociani. The goal was to provide snacks, school books, mentoring, especially mentoring, and the group building. We wanted to get kids to be playing together. So we designed a system that was furnished with entertainment, with a group of volunteers, our age, college-age students who would spend the time with 3 volunteers at a time that would mentor the kids, do homework, and at the same time give them a responsible adult to look up to. In that center, we would, however, have to hire one person who would be at the center all the time to just monitor the kids. There is challenges that come with that, but we had to work in the school. We could not do this by ourselves, so we did have to work in the school. And because we didn't have so much money, the best building that we could get was that. It's big, but it's a storage unit. So we had to get everything out of this building. Well, as you can see, there's a lot of stuff. So we did get a team of 10 kids our age who would do everything without having to be paid, but we just explained the situation and gathered from one kid from Middlebury and a bunch of other kids from Nairobi, University of Nairobi, and local universities in Eldoret. They all did the job. We just utilized all the resources that we could, and these people just dived in everything that we got. It was amazing. So we just transformed the building, painted, renovated everything, and in the end, we had a beautiful structure with everything furnished. The kids, Greenwell also did this. We gathered kids, the most vulnerable kids, with the school principal who ended up giving us some. We'll talk about that later. But we got some of the kids that really needed the help, gave them food. Every day they would have to come play games and spend some time with us as we get to know them. They turned out to be very kids that they don't get the chance to be known, but if you give them the chance, school would help them a great deal. And we noticed that soccer, having them playing soccer and spending the time with us, it did make a big difference. It's impossible to describe the impact of just that little attention that we could give.
Yeah, so I think when we started Aman Children's Home and the Aman Children's Center, our main focus was just make, as Evelyn mentioned, to make the problem of the street kids and vulnerable kids known to the society. It's very close to the society, but they accept it in a way that it's okay to go through those problems. It's okay to have this many street kids. So the government doesn't give much attention, the community accepts it. So we just wanted to create an accountability. So Evelyn mentioned we transformed that place into a better place for the kids. Everything was going smoothly, and we had a grand opening of the project, and that's Ms. Menjo is a school principal of Sosinia Elementary School we mentioned earlier. She was the contact we had before we went to build this hall, and she's the one who coordinated the school committee, and also the MEO, the Municipal Education Officer. She's the one who convinces those people to give us this place. It's a school property. And after we started working, she was very happy, very collaborative. But then when she came for the grand opening, when the house was looking really good, she had a very smart plan for it. So she said she doesn't want the street kids to come to the school anymore, and she convinces the community to do that. So, and they told the street kids were a bad influence on those kids. So they were no longer welcome to the school. So we did all what we could, but she already had convinced about that. Yeah, so we couldn't have any other issues, so we have to meet in the middle. So we decided to work with the school kids who are vulnerable. Rather than getting the street kids, we would just work with the kids who, after school, would not have anywhere to go, or they don't have time to do homework, so we will help them with those kind of issues. But the problem didn't stop there. After they came back another time, the building was looking really good, so the staff members and the school principal told that the place should be a library or a staff office rather than for our budget.
According to them, the building was too good for the rest of us.
Yeah, which was really, really bizarre because we really convinced them. They were into our program. Everything was working very fine. And after they see this building, we either take it or you are not using it. So they just locked it down. So that being said, our current situation will be we actually have a lot more support from the community who saw us working day and night there, and they also supported us working. So it's not a dead end. We still have the options of convincing her or either several other options we are working on, but it has been a huge, huge challenge. And to just give you an overall challenge we have with Aman Children's Home Center, aside from this major problem, would be we have a very limited budget. We get funding from the college, but we really are trying hard to get more funding from outside. It hasn't been very good, but it's also, we are also getting a lot of recognition and get connected with mid-allies and just getting mentorship and other things. And the other additional thing we've experienced in time, working with Aman Children's Home has been a wonderful experience for us. It's one of those things that you commit your life into, and it's not just one time project that you do for summer or teacher. So this has been a great experience for us. What we learned from Aman, we didn't repeat that problem we had it in Ethiopia and when we worked on project in Kenya. But the problem is you never solve all the problems, so we faced another problem in Kenya. But it's one of those things that I think when something is really worth it, you don't get it easy. So it would be, we would have a lot more work to do. And one other thing we learned through experience is that I think the primary collaboration will be the local government, and we did that. And looking forward, we are working on getting more funds and also registering our project as a local into Vermont.
We're waiting to hear back from one state.
I think we have time for 2 questions for Brooke and Eve.
So Brooke and Eve, your story reminds me a lot of what I read. Many of us have read in The Blue Sweater, Jacqueline Novogratz's book, when she, as an outsider, arrives in Africa, and she's very eager to make change, and things don't happen the way she wants, and she really faces struggle after struggle, failure after failure, but she keeps getting up. Do you feel that you were perceived as outsiders in what you were doing? That's my first question. And then I'm going to make it kind of a 2-part question, I guess. What next for you two?
This past summer, the best thing that we did is just shake up the town and make people realize that these kids or these kids actually deserve some attention. They need to be taken care of. And despite the fact that the perception was not more as we are outsiders, but it was more like, this is young kids thinking they can do big people stuff. It was, and we stepped from office to office and facing, people just thought, there was older people looking down upon us, we could tell. Definitely that's a big problem. But I don't think that's a big enough an obstacle for us to stop. So definitely we'll keep making the noise, and probably things will be better. Any other questions?
How did you all pick the location? Do you have a connection to the town where you're working?
Yeah, the town we work in Ethiopia, in Desi, is where I was born and raised, and the Emirates were she. So we have huge tons of connections.
And the center was, we picked the Eldoret Center because it's the one place where a lot of kids, poor kids go to school, and it's conveniently located in the city where a lot of other schools are.
I mean, in addition to the connection to, I think we were too close when growing up. Both of us, we were middle class families, I guess. So we were too close to the poverty, and we had classmates who came to class with empty stomach, who didn't have shoes, and all those problems. So it was too close to us when growing up. And so when we got the chance, at least many ways, when we were able to do it, it was easier to go back to those places when we grew up.
Thank you, Brittany.
I'm Anna Clements, and I'm a super senior fed.
And my name is Hannah Judge. I'm also a super senior feb. And this is our project, GIS for Grassroots Health. And the goal of our project was to bridge the gap between a high-tech software, GIS, which stands for Geographic Information Systems, and a grassroots global health organization. So we thought we would explain our project by going through the arc of our process and how this came to be. How it started off was with an academic interest. And Anna and I are both geography majors and global health minors. And last fall, we took Jeff Howard's GIS class in the geography department. And we both really enjoyed the class and got really interested in this intersection between GIS and public health. And we asked him if he would be willing to do an independent study with us over J-term of last year to really dig into how GIS is being applied in this field.
What we found out was that GIS is being used both to communicate results to donors and also to for programmatic purposes, but mostly it's by very large organizations. And so we realized that there was this gap where it could be utilized by small grassroots organizations, but they don't necessarily have the infrastructure, manpower, resources to have access to this historically high-tech software.
So we came up with this idea with our professor, Jeff Howard, to design a project that would bridge this gap and bring GIS software to a small organization. And we used GlobeMed's partner organization, Gardens for Health International, to frame our work. And in collaboration with them, we got this is their results framework. And so we started thinking about what this mapping project that would be really useful for this organization look like. And what we came up with
was that the thing that makes GHI really unique is that they collect health indicators for every family at the household level. So we thought that we would collect a spatial location for every household, and then could connect that to the health information and then make maps and analyze the patterns that we saw.
So the greenhouses being the houses that have a spatial tag. And we designed this to be done using handheld GPSs. So then as we were doing this is still, the project design was basically our final for this class that we were taking over J-term. And as we were doing it, we were sort of in the process of thinking, what are we going to do this summer? What internships are we interested in? And we kept coming back to that what we were doing right then was what we were most interested in doing and most motivated by and most inspired by, and what we really were going to try and make it happen. So we started looking at different resources, and we got up on MidStart, and then we got this grant, and our idea became our project. And one of the first things we did, we bought a website, grassrootsgis.com, and we blogged throughout our entire process, while we were getting ready, while we were in Rwanda, and then once we returned, updating people.
And so we spent the spring coming up with budgets because we received funding not only from the center but from a couple other sources. So we had to come up with budgets, and then we had to write a research proposal for the IRB, and there was a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, the internal review board was maybe one of our major roadblocks in getting the project on its feet, making sure that everything we were doing was really ethical. And this idea of individual household location tags, as you can imagine, presents a number of potential problems. And so really trying to think through those and ask ourselves, what are the implications of what we're doing, and is it worth it? And we decided to do this.
So then we made it to Rwanda. And we went for 5 weeks in June and July. And most of our time spent in Rwanda was spent in the field in landscapes such as this, and we just would walk around and take the location of every household that I worked with using our handheld GPS and with the help of agricultural agents who know all the families and work in these communities.
And this was really our favorite part of the whole experience, was getting to interact with these professionals who spend their time hiking to meet the different families, make sure that they are really getting a lot out of the program, and also I think it was a real affirmation for them that the work they were doing was really valuable. That's some feedback we got from the organization. Like, it was so great to have you guys here because the ag agents really feel like incredibly powerful, and it was a nice recognition for them. So that was really fun to be a part of.
And so then we would come back to the office in the afternoon and we would import the data that we collected. And one thing that makes our project unique is that we're using a free geographic information system that you can download online. It's called Quantum, it's open source. And
In contrast with ArcGIS, which is the leading other software system that costs $20,000 for a single computer.
so that's why there's this gap between who can afford to use GIS.
And it was really fun for everybody at the organization. We would layer this satellite imagery. Rwanda, both Bing and Google have a really high resolution imagery for all of Rwanda. And being able to show them where the houses were in relation to each other on top of this was really exciting.
And we also conducted a series of both GPS and GIS trainings with different staff members. And this was to ensure sustainability in our project so they can continue it even if they're not there.
Yeah, we designed these like cookbook type training manuals for both the software and the GPS. So we thought we would show you guys a clip of our video that we made to get some perspectives
Yeah, I think before this project, I kind of largely saw maps as deliverables, as things that funders saw or you put on a website to demonstrate the activities that you did. But the projects actually showed me how useful maps can be in the program implementation sense. That even before you demonstrate exactly what you've done helps you do the actual job that you need to do. So just an idea of the response that our project has been. So then upon our return in July, we started work on some of the products. These included a paper map made in Rwanda. And the process of building a map, we were combining the data that we were collecting ourselves, but then also data that we found online, so satellite imagery and administrative boundaries and that sort of thing.
And then also maps that they can use at the farm. So this is something that they could use because they rotate their crop fields by every season, so for planning purposes.
We tried also to think of creative ways to, that they could use maps on their website. So this, like in all, these are the different fields of what crops are where, so it says like bananas, 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 bananas. Yeah, and basically at the end, we were just so thrilled to have been able to take what was really an academic interest and apply it in this way with an organization that we really care a lot about and see it through all the way until now. And we're actually still working on it.
Yeah, so when we got back to campus, we decided that we wanted to figure out, we saw this work as really meaningful, so we wanted to figure out how to continue. So now we're doing an independent study with Professor John Isham and Professor Howard in the Geography Department to try to figure out what about this model is scalable.
Assuming that the two of you are not from Rwanda, how are you able to bridge the cultural intelligence gap?
We relied really heavily on the organization that we were working with to do that. I think the staff of GHI in Rwanda is mostly Rwandan, but there are a few American staff members, and we talked in advance about, you know, some of the things that we might run into, but generally once we got there, we just really followed their lead and trusted them. They've been working there for over 5 years now, and the country director in particular really has a great sense for, you know, how people are responding, and there's a lot of really open communication. So
it's basically, they're basically a part of the community that they work in. There's community dinners all the time, I don't know, they're very, very community-based, so it was easy to integrate ourselves into that environment.
And we spent the first week really trying to get a sense of the organization and doing some visits to learn about their different programs, and we really started our project the second week because we wanted to build in that time to adapt and get a feel for what was happening.
I just wanted to say that there's lots of different presentation styles, but I really enjoy your presentation styles. The palpable sense of your friendship and the way you complete one another's sentence, the use of a landscape photo at the end, it's sort of a microcosm of the entire experience. Just great.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Jeff.
My name is Eleni Panapinadu, and together with Sam, who unfortunately could not be here today, but sends his kindest regards, we worked on a conferencing project in Virginia High School. So our project really started in March 2012 in one of my favorite classes in Middlebury. It was called Education for Sustainability, and it was taught by Greg Humphrey. And part of this class was to find a project, and it had to be in the community and it had to be related to sustainability. And so this coincided with an organization that came to Vermont and gave talks throughout high schools about climate change and how students can actually do something more than just turning off their lights. And so as this presentation happened, Sam and I decided to link in with the Virginia High School and see if students were interested in creating an environmental club and if they had any environmental interest. So we went there and we were really excited, and we go and nobody shows up, which was a little bit disappointing. But we didn't give up, which is a very good lesson. And we went back, this time with a promise of pizza. And to our surprise, 15 students turned up. So, another important lesson, always bring pizza to high schoolers. So with 50 students at hand, we talked to them and figured out that the main interest they had was composting. And this actually aligned with an interest of the administration and the current principal called Reynolds. So then it began our giant challenge of bridging all these different gaps, bringing different groups together and creating composting. Now, you're all probably thinking that composting sounds like a very simple thing. You just put your food scraps in a bin, you take it to a structure, and you compost it. Simple, right? Shouldn't take 8 months to implement. Wrong. There are very many different constituent groups involved in this, including the administration, including parents, including students, including community members around. And I think neither Sam and I had any idea what we were getting into when we started this project, and we had a lot of learning curves. So we began the idea of talking to principals, talking to Bob Worley, who's a school caretaker, and figuring out whether it was actually feasible to get composting happening on the campus. And we said, yes, okay, it is. So we talked to the school board, we talked to Highfields Institute for Composting, and started coming up with a giant list of questions. I'm not talking 2, I'm talking at least 40 questions. What materials do you need for composting? Where are you going to get these materials? How often does the composting need to be turned? Who's going to be turning it? What is the temperature needed? Where is the structure going to go? Where are the materials going to come from? Are we talking about students? Are we talking about some teacher who's going to be overlooking them? Do we want high school or do we want middle school students involved? The list goes on and on. Just kept adding more and more. But we did do a pretty good job of answering them, I'd like to think. So we were really inspired by the structure at Ferrisburg Elementary School, which was the one on the right. And this was started by Nick Patch, which was a parent there, and pretty much the whole project was done by him. So we went to talk to him and got some design ideas. And we then used a Middlebury College architecture student to talk about ways in which we could improve the structure and ways in which we could incorporate student ideas. We had some great student ideas, ranging from murals to make it look interesting to rain catchments so we could have water for a potential school garden. Unfortunately, as we were going on with the process, we realized the financial feasibility of this probably wasn't enough. But we did end up including some cool new features to it, including opening the composting at the back so you could bring in a cart as opposed to scooping it out from the inside, putting it into a cart, and then leading it out. So we had our designs, things were moving forward. We then realized we need money to do this project. Right, tiny detail. So we began looking at sources for funding, and this is how we came across the center, which is a huge help and was one of our main sources of funding. We also got a couple of grants from the Vermont Community Fund and the New England Grassroots Fund. So we had our money, we had our green light from the administrators, or so we thought, and we were all ready to build in August. So Sam came back from China, he was doing research, he was all ready to build, and then the administration said, wait, well, maybe you shouldn't build, I don't know. The community thinks there might be rodents, and well, we don't know if you want to have a composting structure on our campus. And so they kind of waylaid this process of building, and they waylaid a little bit more, and a little bit more, and time went on, and we weren't really building anything. Until the administration finally said yes. And then we came to roadblock number 2, which was our contract had vanished. So originally we wanted Sam to be going through with the building and then having a group of volunteers, but we realized the legality of that wasn't very realistic, and so we hired a contractor, but weren't particularly specific in the time frame that we told them we wanted it to be built, and so we had some communication problems and the building didn't happen. So the first day of school comes, all the students come in ready for composting, but there's no structure. So they start composting anyway, which was one of the most pleasant surprises of this project. Sam and I came back to campus in September, got lost in a pile of schoolwork, and then decided to visit Virgin's mid to late September. And we knew that the structure was about to be built, but wasn't built yet. But we found that students were composting anyway. They had a three-bin system going, and it just become part of daily life. They were just used to using the bins and composting, which was absolutely wonderful to see. And we also saw the first beams going down of the structure at the same time. So we decided that it wasn't a complete failure, but rather the time that we didn't expect. So those are some of the challenges that we faced, but I have a little video from our presentation so you guys can hear Sam as well talking about some of the other challenges.
Some of the biggest challenges have been not having a car and being able to come up here every day. So kind of coordinating far and just being a little bit disconnected with the community. Because as hard as Sam and I tried to really get into it, up to a certain point it was okay, but at the end of the day we were still kind of outsiders from, this big college coming and telling them what to do with their school or what people should be doing with their time. Another challenge was, I think, a lot of administrative and small details came up that we didn't really think about, and a lot of obstacles which perhaps weren't expecting and took a lot longer.
It was quite frustrating working on the project this summer and seeing all the roadblocks, one after the next, coming back in the middle of August with the plan of being able to help build for a month or so before the students got here, and to keep running into roadblock after roadblock was one of the more frustrating experiences of the project. But then today to come back and see composting actually happening in the cafeteria, and thinking about all the meetings last semester in the spring when students, staff, administrative, folks from the outside all came together with this dream of having composting at Virginia High School. To actually see it in action is so satisfying and such an honor to all of the efforts of the students who have been putting in the effort day in and day out. Eleni and I, as we've been working on this project for 6 months or so, as administrators who have been giving this the green light kind of on a little bit of blind faith, and on people from the outside like Eric and Trevor, who are constructing behind us here, and Lynn Rappaport, who is a nutritionist in the district and who works in the cafeteria on composting, recycling, and good food initiatives. So it's finally happening.
So where are we today? The structure is finally built. I think it looks gorgeous. That may be a little bit biased, but so this is our 3-bin system, and that is the structure that we have today. It's just surreal to know that a project that you've been working on for 8 months is a 20-minute drive away, and it's an actual structure that is kind of big. And it's absolutely an incredible experience. It's also really satisfying and perhaps optimistic, but I'd like to think that Sam and I have put in something that can empower students in Virginia High School to know that an idea that they have or a passion that they have can actually come to reality, and perhaps this will motivate more environmental action in the future instead of sort of legacy for a good, strong environmental club. We've been trying to follow up with their environmental club, going up whenever we can. Like I said in the video, it's really hard and far away, and when you're a student in college going to high school meetings. But it works out quite well. I'm hoping we planted a seed for the future. And we're just so grateful that we got to do this in our local community, because a lot of the work that is done is in the outer world, but oftentimes it's also important to look close to home and know that there are many projects that are at your doorstep that you can do and make a difference, even if it's really small, even if it's just putting the food scraps from the food that you eat every day back into the ground and completely recycle. So thank you to the center and to Greg Humphrey and to everybody who's inspired us for this.
What thought have you given to scaling this up so that it could be replicated across the country?
That actually was our initial plan. So we had very ambitious plans in the beginning of this project. We had talked to the Highfields Institute for Composting, which is based in Vermont, and had seen that they have this new structure, which is kind of like this giant round thing on I can't even explain how it is. But basically the idea is that you just have to kind of push it and it turns the compost by itself instead of having somebody physically turn it. And we thought that could be a great project to make composting more easy and to just make it more accessible to people. Because a lot of the problems with high schools, with middle schools, even larger institutions, is that nobody wants to commit the time to turning the compost and taking care of it. But if it's in this ready-made structure, then it would be so much easier and more people would be doing it. However, we found out that would cost $10,000 and the current system costs $2,000. So we weren't able to raise the funds and we weren't sure if it was going to work because it was still in that initial design phase. However, we think that what we did could definitely be replicated, and we've been working on documenting exactly how we worked on the project, and that was something I actually started in the class, and it's just a very sort of step-by-step, this is the questions you need to think about, and this is how we thought about it, and we have our budgets, and sort of the designs and different phases we went through. So hopefully at some point we'll be able to make all that. Currently, a lot of that information is on our Education for Sustainability website, which has links to different documents. Yeah.
How did you go about building the kind of trust in the local community, being a student from Middlebury and kind of times being as they are, the big dividing privilege versus non-privilege?
It was really tough, honestly. I think that truly for me at least was the biggest challenge, and it was just the idea that it was really hard for us to get up there because I don't have a car, Sam doesn't have a car, we used to borrow people's cars just to go up there once a week, and definitely in those first few times there was this huge gap between students and administrators and us, and it kind of felt like they were asking us about really asking, why are you here? And why do you care what we're doing, what our waste is doing? You know, it's not even in Middlebury, you know, even if we were in Middlebury High School, I feel like it could have been a little bit smaller because, well, we were in the same town and we cared, but, you know, Virginia's and Middlebury, there's a little bit of a distance. So I think a lot of it was just really talking to people and just emphasizing, at least with our environmental club meetings, we really didn't take the lead. We were rather facilitators for the discussion, and we would say, okay, so this is the project that you guys want to do, so how are we going to go about this? Does anybody have any ideas? What are some problems that you guys are coming up with? And we were just mostly trying to motivate them to do it themselves, and so also trying to set this legacy of keeping the environmental club going after Sam and I left and removed ourselves from the situation. So at least with the students, I think that gained a lot of trust because we weren't sitting there saying, okay, you have to do this, and you have to do this, and you have to do this. We weren't imposing ourselves, but rather trying to integrate ourselves in there. It was a little harder with the administration, especially with a couple of members, one being the caretaker who just saw us as those privileged Middlebury College student kids who were telling him what to do and giving him more work to do on top of the work that he was doing. And so it was a lot about sort of compromising and just listening to their concerns and trying to find ways in which we would alleviate whatever problems they were worried about. So with Bob Worley, who was the caretaker, he was worried that this composting was going to fall on him, and he was going to be the one who was going to take everything out, keep turning the compost and all that. And so we were trying to find other key members, students, staff members, teachers who were interested in the project and try to divide the work and try to keep it the idea that it's a community thing. So I'm not 100% sure that we gained all of their trust, but I think we were integrated right now.
Who's usually done those?
So right now it's going to take 9 months for the compost to actually come out. One of the next projects of the school is to have a school garden. So hopefully it'll be using the school garden. Otherwise, Virginia's High School has the Walton Project, which is an alternative part of the school where kids are outside and they have all their lessons outside in the woods. They cook their own meals. They have a little garden, and that's where they get their food from to cook. And it's an incredible project, and it's in Moncton Woods, I believe. So the other plan is for the compost to go there.
Thank you.
While we get ready, thank you everyone for being here, and thank you so much to everyone at the MCSC for all the support that you have given us, and to many other people in Middlebury that have helped us with moral support and economic support. So really, thank you all for being here.
Andrea, if you just click allow at the top. Okay.
So welcome everybody. We are here to talk to you about Integrando Mexico, which is a youth empowerment program we did in Mexico in San Miguel Allende this past summer. But first, let's introduce ourselves. So my name is Andrea Cruz. I am from Mexico City. I am a junior right now. I'm an environmental studies major with policy focus and a French minor.
I'm Rebecca Hicks. I'm a current sophomore. I'm from Costa Rica and I'm an environmental studies major with an anthropology focus.
I'm Fernando. I'm from Mexico too, but from a rural community in central Mexico. And I'm an environmental studies geography major and Arabic minor.
And hey, I'm Christina Fiesca from Hungary. I'm a sophomore here and an environmental studies major with an economics focus. So we need a science.
Well, we want to welcome you all and thank you for coming. And well, just a little bit of an overview of what we're going to talk about today. First, we're going to talk about the origins of our project, how we started, when we started, and why we started. Then we're going to talk about the project itself. Then we're going to talk about what went right, what went not so good. We're going to talk about sustainability and the future to come, and then we're going to finish with what we take away from this project.
Right, so starting with the origins. Integrando Mexico was created under the umbrella of United World Colleges, which is the high school that all of us went to, and it was embracing the values of this school, which are sustainability and a sustainable future. And we wanted to give these values to students that do not have the opportunity to go to UWC. So it was started in 2010 as a summer course brought together indigenous and non-indigenous youth in Mexico, because there's a big social divide between the two, and talk about conflict resolution between the two so they could use those tools within their communities and bringing the two communities together. Then in 2011, it was done again, but this time it was focused on social entrepreneurship, acknowledging the extremely big and untapped potential that youth have to affect positive social change in Mexico, just because of the sheer amount of youth that Mexico has and the fact that a lot of them, 7 million in fact, do not study and do not work. So in 2012, we wanted to keep on doing the same thing with social entrepreneurship. Now, so you see, it happens every year, it happens every summer, but every summer is a different group of people that direct it, that design it, and that fundraise for it, because we want to bring students, not students, participants, because they don't have to be students, regardless of their ability to pay. So in 2012, we kept on with social entrepreneurship.
This was our team.
So we minus a couple of.
Yeah, plus and minus a couple. So we were in total 12 facilitators representing 10 countries, and 6 of us were Mexican. And for you math geeks in the audience, yes, the counts don't match, but we have different nationalities. So from this team, we work from 4 main places, so we have 4 main groups that we work across time zones, countries, and continents. And we finally got together during the project. One of the groups was the Middlebury crew. We were in charge of developing the social project development workshops and guide, which helped the participants create their own projects at the end of the course. These are the participants. There were 35 participants from several socioeconomic backgrounds.
And geographic.
Yeah, and geographic locations around Mexico. They all looked really pretty in the last day. This was the closing ceremony. All the parents, well, not all the parents, but some parents came, and they got to show their family what they had been doing for the past 4 weeks. So that's why they looked so pretty. So now let's talk a little bit about the project itself.
So the kind of fruit of our, the fruit of our planning for the past year was compounded into 4 weeks plus 1 week of facilitators training. And our 4 weeks were comprised of 6 different sections, some of which overlapped and made up for 1 month of learning experience. The first week after our initial training to just kind of get our feet on the ground, everyone get on the same page and familiarize with the content which we had been kind of editing from last year in 4 separate groups, was peace agency workshops. And this was basically the groundwork for the rest of the course because it was setting up basic principles of empathy, constructive conflict resolution, and learning how to communicate effectively but respectfully when talking about conflicting points of view. So this is basically just creating a safe space and having everyone understand that this is a respectful place and that these principles should be carried on into the external life as well.
And then the second section was community service, in which the participants became facilitators, and the community service sessions were made of them helping young teenagers and children from the local community and surrounding villages to internalize the principle of empathy through different activities. So one of them, for example, would be to replicate the peace agency workshops that our participants did, and then completely change them to give them to young people, to people that were younger than them. So that was a challenge in itself. Another one was, for example, trying to explore issues of discrimination within Mexico by using a technique called theater of the press. And there were many others, but it was really working with kids.
So in the next section, we asked our participants to choose one social issue in Mexico that they really wanted to explore. And we offered 5 different sections about immigration, environmental issues, problems in education, inequality and discrimination, and drug trafficking. So basically here we mainly started off with a presentation from our part, but later on we built on the feedback and the input we got from the participants to really have an interactive session discussing these issues. And then building on these, this knowledge, this material that we gained here, we then asked our participants to choose a form of art, a form of artistic expression to, through which they can reflect on their newly gained knowledge of these issues. And one thing that we want to point out here is that while each participant had one issue to explore before, here we had mixed groups. So we asked the participants to pool their knowledge together and create pieces of art with that mindset. So we had wonderful performances in theater, dance, music, literature, and film as well.
So the third week we looked at civic engagement workshops. So we talked a little bit about the social problems in Mexico, how we explore those social problems through creativity. But we thought that in order to become powerful agents of change, participants needed to really, really get to know what were their rights as a citizens, what was the political context, what is their country offering them, and what can they do with those tools and materials that we as Mexicans have. So that week we really focused on analyzing not only our constitution but our rights, the things that are possible in Mexico right now and the things that are not but that can be possible to people that fight for them.
And something important to note here is that our participants were from age 16 to 18, so technically most of them were not legal citizens as defined by law. However, we really emphasize the importance of being active community agents and creating change regardless of their power or age.
So the fourth week was dedicated entirely to the social project development workshops. So this is actually the culminating point of our project, our program. We spent 3 weeks at this point kind of challenging the participants, challenging the way they see the world, right? And working with them and thinking about systems and thinking about how everything is interconnected. And now, with all those tools, they had yet another challenge to create their own project, a project that they will do once they return to their community, a project that will expand the reach of Integrando Mexico. So during this week, we encouraged the participants throughout the 4 weeks to think about what they wanted to do, but during this week, we looked very in depth on how to create a mission statement, how to create a vision, how to get a team of people, how to get funding, how to organize yourselves, how to create a calendar. Some things that were very basic, some things were not, but we give them the basics of how to create the project. And we use the social project development guide that they have as a resource afterwards to go back if they need anything.
So thinking about our successes, we grouped the most important ones into 4 different categories. First of all, we think that our course was really well built up in the sense that we started out with a really firm foundation. The first week of the course when we tackled the issue of conflict management. So we shared the principles, the main principles that we felt were the most important, the ones that Becca has mentioned, such as active listening, collaborative work, etc. But the 2 most important ones were use of empathy and systemic thinking. So as we all know, empathy is the most basic capacity we all should share if we are striving for positive change. So we kept reminding our participants of that in the different exercises they had later on in community service, discussion groups as well. And systemic thinking also was something that we really emphasized throughout the course, where because we think that to understand the complexity of the issues that they are faced with, they have to see the different constituents of these issues. So one example could be something that Nando has mentioned about the number of people, the 7 million Mexican young people who are neither work and nor study what it means in Spanish. And so we asked our participants to not just have the knee-jerk reflex that, oh, what's Deckers, right? But see beyond the appearance and see the actual causes, the root cause for this issue, and attack that, because that's the only way you can actually eradicate a problem, not just treating the symptoms.
Right, so we also talk about preparing for failure. So we knew that their projects were not going to succeed as they planned them, and we wanted them to make it about them and not necessarily about their projects, to make sure that they continue on being social change makers throughout their lives, and then support network. So that is being able to be in contact with us whenever they can, in contact with each other, to say, I did this, I got support from the local government, or like, my parents really don't want me to do this, to be able to share their successes and their failures. And talking about not necessarily failures, but limitations, so the things that kept us from achieving even more. So logistical challenges. For a lot of reasons, we were not able to do the project in the location that we originally wanted to, and had to change last minute. And this gave us a lot of problems. For example, that our locations were really separate, where we slept, where they slept, where we had activities, and that took a lot of time and transportation. Commitment. We came with 4 different groups, and each of us had, we were all really committed, don't take us wrong with that. But there were different levels of investment for it. There were also some of the facilitators that had external commitments that they had to do. And also there was a language barrier. Some of the facilitators were not native speakers and did not put enough confidence to try to really communicate with the participants.
We also had issues of commitment and communication and coherence. This basically comprised of the fact that even though we did have daily meetings to communicate with ourselves, we lived together and we were, constantly in communication with each other, it wasn't effective communication. And one of the main places where this showed was our interaction with the participants, where some of us took a much more informal approach, and others were quite removed as kind of a mechanism to distinguish 18-year-olds from 17-year-olds. Yeah. So there was some inequity between this, and it created kind of friction within the team.
But we have to mention here that most of these limitations only affected our experience, and the participants did not see most of this happening at all. The most discussions we had, we kept in the staff room, and we went to class as composed as we could.
Really quick before we have to go. So we put a lot of work into this project, right? And we don't want it to end. We don't want it to bridge of this project to end after 4 weeks. So what's after this? So So as we already said, every participant creates a project that they do in their hometown or in their local community. So from the 2011 project, we have some of them changed course, some of them didn't work, but some of them did work and created a kind of a pay-it-forward effect where we helped 40 participants, 35 participants, but then they go to their community and they teach something else. So it's not only us teaching them, but it just keeps going and going. So from 2011, there are two projects we want to talk to you about. One of them was the creation of classrooms working with an indigenous community out of, they made classrooms out of water bottles, which is incredibly cool. And let's jump to this project. So we're not a little bit.
We gotta end, guys. We're getting into the next group's
Okay.
time, so we need to finish so we have time for one question.
Perfect. Okay. Well, in the future, if you want to talk to us about it out there, we hope that this project will develop and the participants will keep continuing being social entrepreneurs.
We have time for one.
And Max, if you want to start.
If I were to talk to some of the participants in the program, how would they describe the impact that you've had on their lives?
We can show you a video maybe to illustrate that. Probably better.
Well, I think one thing that I got from our participant that I think is really powerful is that, of course, make him realize the importance of embracing his values to the point of making himself accountable and responsible for all of his actions and his lifestyle. Not just what he does when he's doing a project, but what he does in his daily life.
We'll show you the video later, but basically, as Fernando mentioned earlier, it was not just measured on the success of their individual projects afterwards, but really, we're trying to make young change makers. And so even if their initial projects don't work, they're 16, it happens. But the point that they feel empowered about doing something in their community and that they can really be that difference and feel like they can motivate other young people and that it doesn't have to be from above, it can really be youth to youth kind of network of action. That is our real kind of success.
Thank you.
My name is Max Backrack, 14.
My name is Sebastian Shell, 14.5.
And I'm Bjorn Peterson, class of 2015.5.
The project we're involved in is Jiminy. We are a company that makes organic cricket bars. We plan on using the proceeds from the bars to promote cricket farming as a source of sustainable source of iron and protein for mothers and children around the world. Our project started 10 months ago under the name of Umu by Alex Bebb when he took mid-core. Alex recognized that although we in the United States do not eat crickets, do not eat insects, for cultural reasons, many people around the world do. And it's really not such a big deal. Alex also recognized that because insects are a potentially highly efficient form of livestock, they could be a potentially valuable addition to the global food system.
Okay, so the next step in our project, we added 3 new members. We incorporated, we changed our name, we reevaluated our project a little bit, and now we are Jim. So it's myself, Sebastian, Max, and Alex. We have a new we have the same project, the same goal, but we've reevaluated and figured out how to be more effective at what we want to accomplish.
So I'm Sebastian, the head chef of the project. I got added last spring, and since then I've been experimenting with different recipes, like bar recipes, cookie recipes, and all sorts of funky stuff. And I've always liked to cook, and during my Febmester, I interned at a restaurant in the Bay Area, and I've just been doing cooking ever since, and I'm glad that I found this project.
So now she's very modest. The restaurant he entered out of shape. It's not just any restaurant. So I'm Jordan Pearson. I'm the graphics guy and the marketer. So I'm the newbie. I'm the guy that doesn't get invited to the office parties and no one tells about anything. They're all great guys. So no, yeah, my job is to make everything look pretty and make it visible for you. All right, so Alex Bea, he isn't here with us today. He is up in Burlington, but he is, of course, still the product CEO and visionary. It's his job, it's his initial inspiration, and he's given it to us. But by adding us to the team, Alex can be more effective as a manager or CEO, and we can help diversify our skill set.
So I'm a cricket farmer, and that's a picture of me setting up our original cricket farm in Middlebury. So with the help of the MCSE, one of the first things we did was to develop a detailed plan to promote cricket farming in southern Canada. We submitted our plan to the Dell Social Innovation Challenge. For those of you who don't know what that is, the Dell Social Innovation Challenge is a grant competition. About 2,000 teams worldwide participate. We actually did not secure funding, however, we managed to place within the top 40 of those 2,000 teams, which is pretty impressive given the fact that our project had been going on for only about 2 months at that point.
So over the summer and a little before, we were working in the Old Stone Mill. So one of the great things about MCSE is it's not just a source of funding, it's a source of resources and a source of environment. MCSE gives us all these spaces so we can collaborate. Had we not had this opportunity, we would have been trying to network over Skype with two of us in California, him in the Midwest, and me all the way up in Maine, and we would have gotten nothing done. But being able to work up in our little secluded attic, being able to work up there and collaborate, be face to face, and have a physical location to innovate was so crucial. And that's why, a place like this is excellent.
Another great thing that the MCSE does is they bring in speakers to talk about entrepreneurship issues. One of those speakers, Gary Hirschberg, is the founder of Stonyfield Yogurt. He invited us down to the Stonyfield Entrepreneurial Institute at Hampshire College. When we were there, we made a lot of really great connections. We learned a lot of important lessons like don't ask, don't get, and the importance of feedback. We also had, while we were there, we met a man who offered to put our bar in his store, and we also met owners of a vending machine company who also wanted to have our bar in their vending machines. It was also at the Stonyfield Institute that we ran into our first really significant obstacle, which is when we got the call that our cricket farm was totally unexpectedly, was about to get fumigated. So as you can see, this was what our cricket farm was like at the beginning. It was really a great place. Unfortunately, you can also see there's no cover, and so too many crickets were able to get out. So the result was that there was a cricket infestation that potentially impacted the storm habitat, and so we needed to move out. We had, within about 24 hours, we moved everything out. We cleaned it up. We actually self-fumigated using pine salt, which kills crickets. And why don't you show them?
Yeah, I'll show you. So, and then 24 hours later, I was actually in Old Stone Mill doing something else. These guys gave me a call. It was like about a week before I officially joined the project. They said, "Hey Bjorn, you want to help move a couple thousand crickets?" Okay, so in 24 hours, this is the room. So, when the going gets tough, we move a lot of crickets.
So our project actually could have ended there, and it almost did, had it not been for the generous support of Liz Robinson. That is us building a greenhouse to house our cricket farm at in Liz Robinson's front yard. All right, in addition, over the summer, the MCSE provided us the opportunity to stay here on campus to make cricket farms and to improve our recipe. One of the biggest challenges for student entrepreneurs is finding that place to work, as Bjorn mentioned. And not only did they provide that, but I want to reiterate that it was many of the opportunities that we had to move our project forward were provided through the MCSE in terms of guidance, money, and advocacy on behalf of our project, and giving us a place to put fundraising efforts, to have a website, all of these things. The MCSE was extremely valuable.
So So in the process of all of this, in the a Middlebury education or an education in any higher institution, it can only be so broad. So this opportunity, we have this opportunity now to become specialists in all these crazy areas. I learned volumes of packaging design. These guys understand the bar market better than anyone I know of our age. And we learned how to deal with the tomes of food regulation that exist in both the state and the country, and become pretty knowledgeable about crickets. So, but beyond that, entrepreneurship is great because it teaches you these general skills. Now, these are the ones that are really applicable. These are the ones that help your education outside of your profession. We learn how to deal with situations as they arise, to navigate, to interact with people on a great community level, and how to work together as a team and to diversify our skill set to accomplish the most.
Yeah, these are really real-world skills that you don't recognize as being so important in anything other than just kind of words until you actually are in a situation where they're really important, where they're critical to the success of your project, and you're really forced to become resourceful. One of the best examples I think of this is the fact that our initial budget, like everything that we initially thought we were going to spend money on, we were able to obtain for free or at reduced cost just by being forced to be resourceful. We ended up spending our money anyway on other things that we didn't foresee, but the point is that without this kind of real-world experience, I don't think you'd be able to have a chance to learn this kind of thing in the classroom.
So we all have these individual skill sets, and they all, I can't really see that, I guess. Well, it's a really cute infographic that I designed to describe our skill sets. We are all really different people. Like Sebastian and I have totally different energy levels. I'm a great visual person, a great talker, but I'm not a great essay writer. And please don't do a research project. So that's why we all interact with each other. We can build something so much stronger. That's why we have a great transition from just Alex alone or Alex and Max to the four of us. We have so much more we can accomplish because we can compensate for things that each other lack and amplify things that we're already good at.
So on a global level, in regards to outreach, we build relationships with the NGO Coins for Kenya in southern Kenya, and we also learned about cricket farming from cricket experts and commercial cricket farmers in Thailand.
And in addition, we also collaborate with the local community.
So within Vermont, we reached out and built relationships with a number of people. The list is too long for me to say, everybody, but our list of local supporters includes Bros. It includes Carol from the Organic Foods Co-op. It includes Dr. Skinner and Dr. Parker at the UVM Entomology Lab, and many other people. It was a really good opportunity. Like, as you can see, this is us at a farmer's market, I think, and we're just getting feedback from people just talking to them. These people didn't believe that we're actually making bars with crickets,
but lo and behold, we have actual bars with actual crickets. All right, cool. So, Middlebury's been a great resource for us. We've learned how to, go through several iterations of a design process. Learn how to kind of adapt to situations as they roll up. It's been a wonderful source of community, a source of space, and a source of resources beyond just the funding, beyond the $3,000. That's not really what MCSE is. Yeah, sure, $3,000, it really does get you far in this context, but what really helps is those little things that, can I do Middlebury College? Oh, well, then free. No problem. I'm sorry, what? Free? That exists? Yeah, totally. Great.
So I want to wrap up by saying that Junior remains committed to our original goals of promoting cricket farming as a source of sustainable source of iron protein for mothers and children around the world. If we are successful with this, the long-term impact is that it will provide families with a sustainable way to harvest iron and protein at a lower monetary, feed, water, and environmental cost than any other form of livestock. Iron deficiency is the most prevalent micronutrient deficiency in the world today. It disproportionately affects children and pregnant women. Given the fact that just 3 crickets a day has a person's daily iron needs, and given how easy it is to farm crickets, we believe that we have found a potentially very valuable solution to this problem. So that remains and has been our vision, I think, for this project, and will continue to be so in the months and years ahead.
Thank you.
So are you guys looking to scale up the kind of the bars? Are you trying to sell more bars? Are you trying to create an open source network of recipes, or are you trying, how are you envisioning achieving that goal of kind of worldwide cricket farming?
We do need to scale up the bars, because again, it's the profits from the bars that go to promoting cricket farms.
Yeah, we learned how to, we did do kind of repivot from where we were earlier, being just cricket producers, and now kind of broadening that idea. So yeah, we do have a business model in place for how to scale up massively.
I have a question for all the groups, and it regards assessment. So we're early at the MCSC in terms of thinking about assessment, but here's where our thinking is, that there are two dimensions. One is the project itself. So a composter is built in Virgins, albeit late, albeit not maybe what was first envisioned. The second is the investment in the individuals and what you've learned. The first is easier to measure than the second. Our suspicion is that the second is more important than the first. Share with us what your thoughts are on assessment and how we can develop that model for the next people who apply for this grant next summer.
Well, I think one thing that was really helpful for us was just that we would have to kind of report to you the things that we've done. You encourage us to take pictures, to keep records of what we're doing, because otherwise we wouldn't have done that. And I think looking back, we can see the progress a lot. Like the fact that we made a budget in the beginning that we probably wouldn't have otherwise done made us realize how much we've progressed in terms of resourcefulness or our ability to get things for free.
And one of the things, right now, MCC obviously is in its infant stages, and as a small liberal arts school, we have a different stance on entrepreneurship than, say, MIT or Stanford. It would be wonderful to see the scale of this program increase, but I think we've kind of all shown that you can accomplish a lot with a little bit of money. But I don't know, maybe it'd be nice to see branches of this. So, MIT has the MIT 100K, so that's obviously open to undergrad, grad, and PhD programs, and the winner of that competition gets $100,000. Obviously, that's pretty huge and humongous backing, and that's that kind of school. Stanford has a similar thing going. It'd be fun to see, how can we establish this at multiple levels? Just like how the Environmental Council grant works all the way down to $25 and up to $2,500. It'd be cool to see how that plays into this concept of learning and analysis. And also the scale of the project on a timeline. This is all pretty short. This is how much can we accomplish here is really dependent on our role as students, which is limited by our semester time, and our kind of the interaction between entrepreneurship and academic credit. It'd be interesting to see if we could blur the lines of those two, perhaps, and find a way to incorporate academia and student startups in a way that can help accelerate the whole process.
Any of the other groups want to talk about assessment?
I think it's also very important to have a good team. When you have a project like this, like any of these projects, you are going to have to work late, early, during the day, during the weekend, during your birthday, during, I don't know. You are going to have to work with your peers a lot. So if you don't have a good team to start with, it's more powerful, a little bit more powerful, I think, to have a good fun. And on a second note, I think there's also a very important thing in keeping in touch. And for example, one of the things we think in Internet Mexico is that if you create a network of people who have already launched their ideas, you can create a support net. A support net that could give you feedback, a support net that can give you a hand when you need it. Just keep people in touch with similar interests.
Eve, did you want to share something?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I think the most valuable resource, especially from the MCSC, is just how easy it is to talk to Liz or Heather or just anybody that everybody is just an email short away. That's invaluable. And walking through the project or working during the project, it seems like most of us, I know I am, very much of an idealist in how I think, and it's just great to get out there and incorporate what the rest of the world has to put in, and that way just make everything, just adjust everything pragmatically and just kind of know what to do next.
Great, and maybe we can leave it at that because I know time is of the essence and Liz wants to say something, but Eve, I'd like to ask you and others to help us think about how we measure that and talk about it and tell that story, because I think you capture really well what we're trying to do. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you, everybody, for being here. This was just fantastic. And come down to the center and see us, please.